Enlightenment, a summary. I've been writing a lot recently about enlightenment and my journey in its general direction. If you've read my previous pieces, then you'll be getting the uber understanding along with me. Firstly, it's important to state that you have never not been enlightened. This is the truth. We all arrive in this game with total enlightenment. The game is then to pile so much rubbish on top that by the time we are fully cognizant, we've lost all understanding of the original state. It's a bit like that kids' game where you have to put on as many pairs of clothes as you can in a set time to be the winner. Eventually, you end up with 20 jumpers on. You win, you soon find out you can't move on the other hand. So too with the game of human life. You put so many differing personalities on. You add so many layers. You become such a complex beast that you can no longer see the wood for the trees. Enlightenment means becoming lit. But in my analogy, it also means getting lighter, shedding the layers. If only it were as easy as taking off 20 jumpers to return to your source essence of self. What you didn't notice was that you were carefully taking the time as you put on each jumper to stitch them all together and then add a layer of glue before you put the next one on. The Bible, the Torah, or the Quran, they provide great manuals for how to behave in the religious part of this game. Your parents provide a set of rules for you to follow when you emerge into society. Your school refines your parents' rules and the religious rules, whilst, in theory, preparing you for the next stage of life, work. The workplace shapes you with its own set of rules. How to be a good worker, how to fit into management, how to run your own business, and so on. At some stage, you might consider taking on the role of rule maker yourself, teaching your children or your colleagues. Society and your peers help you to shape the final part of life, how to die gracefully. These structures are all part of the wonderful game we play called the game of life. Some people miss the start point entirely. Some, but very few. Some more escape the machine in a tiny gap between education finishing and work starting. Some crash out of the game when illness strikes, when they lose a loved one, or their career crashes spectacularly. For most, it's a life spent being squeezed out of a tube until the last drop is gone and the tube is thrown away. I once attended a web trends seminar about 10 years ago. It was run by industry insiders who were there to predict the way forward. To a man, they told us about the rise of apps and that every process in our lives would become gamified. Everything in our lives has become a reward basis. I get points for my supermarket, from my bank, my online shopping sites, my diet app, my credit card, my smart watch. It makes life fun for a few weeks. Men your age only took 487 steps. You have beaten this average every day this week. Well, enjoyment wears thin. The apps just become a terrible nag. The real gamification of our lives started with the Mesopotamian shekel nearly 5,000 years ago, and we've been chasing the dollar ever since. What fun! Go to work today and earn £80, minus tax, of course. Rinse and repeat. Can you imagine playing Monopoly without there being any money? What a bore. When we're not working, what then? Well, this kind of gamification of life continues. What are you going to spend the cash on? New house, new car, gas bill, electricity bill, food shopping, win yet more points. When you've covered the basics, what then? Now we need to be entertained. Kids used to say, "Dad, I'm bored." Boredom was a big thing in my childhood. These days, we'll do anything to be inoculated against boredom. Somehow, it all just seems like going round in ever-decreasing circles. Reading novels, waste of time. Watching TV, waste of time. Going to church, waste of time. Pottery classes, waste of time. Watching negative news, a real waste of time. Get the idea? We work like slaves to gain cash. We fill our spare time with anything we can to stave off the boredom. Round we go again. Have you found a purpose to this game? That's right, there isn't one. Leastways, not one that you can benefit from. The main player is the universal consciousness, God, total awareness, or whatever you choose to term this concept. For awareness to experience itself, it has to play this 3D simulation called the game of life. Each of us is a subroutine in a computer program, feeding back our experiential data to the cloud. With my free will, I've decided to drink myself into an early grave. With my free will, I've decided to become a religious guru. With my free will, I'm going to become an astronaut who believes in aliens. You get the idea? God runs all these simulations to understand himself or the universe better. You think you're important, but as we know, the universe can switch you off in a moment. There's that group of people who didn't get fed into the machine. What of them? Oh, there's a kind of matrix feeling to this, or a catch-22 feeling to it. They can often think they've escaped the machine and have found a spiritual path, just to discover that they jumped out of one program straight into another program entitled Alternative Game of Life. They can become spiritual gurus. They can become channels for guides. They can become mediums speaking to the dead. They can just become as deeply plugged into this reality created by awareness, God, the truth, or whomever. Can you imagine that? Spending your whole life believing that in your meditations you've escaped the earthly bounds, only to discover that it's just another subroutine of the same damn program. Meditation can keep you asleep for years. Finally, there are a few people who use the stillness that you can achieve by studying Qigong, meditation, yoga, or even your navel, to awaken from this dream state and experience the true nature of your true self, the raw state of the universe, outside of the program, as it were. I have to accept that this may just be another level of clever programming too. This viewpoint allows you to stand in a state of awareness and look back at the game. Finally, you see the game for the total fraud that it is. What's to be done about this universal fraud? Nothing much. Just keep playing. When it's your turn, smile, nod, throw the dice, move a few squares, collect more money, gain your points, and relax. When things get boring, Never forget that boring is just a mindset. Step back from this daft charade, have a good laugh at the nonsense that people believe is true. Reset and go again. Or not, the choice is yours. Please don't feel cheated or defeated though. It strikes me that happiness should always be your default setting. Stay in the flow. At least you seem to score more points if you play the game that way. It really is the best game in the whole universe.